We're talking about Rust, which is a movie that's a long time in the making. This is the film in which the cinematographer, Halyna Hutchins, tragically was shot to death during production. The writer-director, Joel Souza, was also shot and has survived. The production was put on hold for a long time. There were trials. We will get into all of that. But now the movie is finally out. And so Alonso and I talked about, should we review this? Should we watch it? Should we talk about it? And I felt ultimately like we should, because the profits of the film are going to Hutchins' family, because the film is dedicated to her, because the family wanted the film finished. And I feel like this is a tribute to her work. So I wanted to shine a light on her beautiful work here. I know a lot of folks feel kind of uneasy about it, and I understand that, like not wanting to see it. I totally understand, but I felt like we should talk about it here. And so, Alonso, thank you for watching it with me. What is Rust about?
Who are you?
My name's Rust. Your mom, Wilhelmina, was my little girl.
I can't leave my brother. I gotta go back.
There ain't no going back.
Yeah, and this is a movie that it's almost impossible to divorce it from its real world context, alas. But Halyna Hutchins' work here, as well as her co-cinematographer, is utterly gorgeous. Mm-hmm. And this is a movie, I think, that most of what's great about it is the way that it looks and the way that it's been lit. The sort of natural sunlight coming in through the windows kind of, lighting here. So Patrick Scott McDermott plays a young pioneer named Lucas. He's raising his younger brother. Their parents have died of diphtheria out on the plains, and he is trying to keep the family homestead and farm going, but it's increasingly difficult. He winds up shooting a neighbor who is trying to force him into doing work after, his son and Lucas got into a fight. Lucas is found guilty and set to hang. He is busted out of prison by his grandfather, a notorious outlaw named Harlan Rust, played by Alec Baldwin. And the two of them try to make their way to safety with various parties in pursuit, from the local sheriff who has a dying child of his own, to a religious-minded bounty hunter. We also get Frances Fisher as the kid's aunt, who is not to be trifled with by the law or anyone else. And this is, in many ways, it is shaped like a very traditional Western. It is very much like two men alone on the prairie and dealing with the horrors of nature, dealing with the indigenous people who are protective of their shrinking land, being pursued on horseback by the law and other forces. And it feels, to me, it felt kind of torn between trying to take that somewhere further and trying to be more of kind of an art Western, which there's certainly a proud tradition of those over the decades, and just kind of being a very straightforward, chasing everybody across the desert kind of movie. But it does, I think, stop and find these moments of character insight. I don't think I've seen Patrick Scott McDermott in anything, but he's terrific and he's totally great. Holds his own with a very distinguished cast of character actors. There's a lot of that guy in this movie, people like Travis Fimmel, who they've got really great faces. So even though everybody is covered in dust and wearing cowboy hats, who is who. And you get these eccentric supporting characters like, the cookie who is obsessed with French cuisine, So there's enough going on here that sort of makes it, not just another kind of indie that would come and go. But it's not all that special. And ultimately it is, I think, a movie that, for the time being and maybe forever, is always going to be kind of have this pall cast upon it by the real life tragedy involved in its production.
It's so sad when you see how jaw-droppingly beautiful this film is over and over again. And Bianca Klein is the co-cinematographer. We don't know how much did Halyna Hutchins do, how much did Bianca Klein do. But I mean, I know that Halyna Hutchins was instrumental in crafting the look of this, planning for the look of this. And so it's heartbreaking to see that work and see what might have been. It's also totally impossible not to think about this when the precipitating event here is an accidental shooting.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
A prop gun. And there's a lot of gunfire in this movie.
So
So
much.
clearly, like, whoever was the weapons, the armaments master, however, whatever that
Armorer,
role,
yeah.
or the armorer, like they needed to have somebody who was more on the ball, because that was going to come up a lot over the course of this shoot, just based on what's in the film now.
Right. As you say, it's a very traditional Western in a lot of ways. So there's a ton of gunfire. Just for the record, the first AD pleaded guilty to unsafe handling of a firearm. The armorer was sentenced to 18 months for involuntary manslaughter. And then there was an involuntary manslaughter case against Alec Baldwin as well. He was the one who was holding the gun. He fired the gun that had the live round in it. And that case was dismissed because there was evidence that was suppressed, that the prosecutor and the police, I guess, suppressed evidence that would have potentially maybe exonerated him. So that got tossed out. So, so Alec Baldwin is out there, and there is a queasy feeling watching him holding a gun so much in this, because he is this tough, grizzled old character. I also think he's really miscast. Like, I never forgot I was watching Alec Baldwin. I feel like he's trying to do this like late stage Kevin Costner thing, where he's gruff and he's talking in like a low voice.
I mean, the thing about the character is, like, the more you get to know him, the more you realize that he doesn't fit the mold of the sort of traditional old Western salt, that he actually has a background of, coming from somewhere else and a family that was, of somewhat more privilege. And so I think he's supposed to be a somewhat awkward fit in the role. That doesn't necessarily always translate, because you're right. I think he is a little distractingly not quite there, but I get the intent of casting somebody that you wouldn't think of in this role, because the character ultimately is supposed to be somebody you wouldn't think of in this role.
That's a really good point. But yeah, it's a good supporting cast. Travis Fimmel, who is the bad guy on Dune Prophecy, brings a similar kind of charismatic yet dangerous energy to it. There's a fantastic scene with him and a widow alone in a cabin that is so tense.
Chilling,
changes. And so I think in glimmers here, you see what everyone was going for. And the kid is great, as you say. I had never seen him before, and he's got a ton of presence about him and a lot of maturity, but also still feels like a 13-year-old boy who is scared. He's having to take care of his little brother. So you feel all of that, like he's more mature than he should be, but he's still a kid.
But not where he needs to be,
Yeah, I thought he was great. But it is too long. There is no reason this film should be 2 hours and 19 minutes long.
Yeah, because once they've set up the basic premise of the pursuit, and while they are giving us character stuff along the way, they could definitely tighten all of that, and we would still get what we need to get out of both the plot and the themes and characters.
Yeah, you've got maybe too many supporting characters, like too many parties chasing after the grandfather and grandson. Like there are some little asides with a couple of brothers who talk in a very heightened kind of Coen brothers way, and they're constantly tussling with each other and sniping each other, and like that all felt like, I guess it's for mood, but it felt kind of superfluous. Like, if we're looking at how long this movie is, like we could have cut some of that stuff out.
And so much of I think the real meat of this film is about the kid and the grandfather, that very often when we're cutting away to these other pursuers, it's kind of like, I'm more interested in what's going on over there, and you're taking me over here. And there's an art to that sort of like cross-cutting between characters and places, but often here it gives it more of a meanwhile, and it's like, well, pick one, because not all of these paths are as interesting as the other ones.
Yeah, but it is very beautiful in a way that does feel like art house Western,
for sure,
like
Slow West.
Or like, what's the one that we just talked about with Benedict Cumberbatch? Oh, come on.
With Benedict Cumberbatch, a
yes.
Western?
Oh, come on. I'm looking at Power the Dog.
Oh, yes, right, of course.
I'm looking at the book. It's right there. art house Western, right?
Yes,
Where like
yes,
they do
yes.
beautiful stuff here with like just one like light source, like fire in the corner, or like the morning daylight streaking in, or like the vistas that you want in a Western like this. There's a whole big long montage of them traversing different kinds of topography, whether it's the hills, where it's a creek, and I
Right.
think it gives you that texture, that mood. So yeah, the look of it is really the strongest feature of it here.
Yeah, definitely. And so if you are interested in seeing it, and the tragedy behind it is keeping you from it, it might make it better for you to know that Halyna Hutchins' family is reaping the benefits of whatever profit this film does accrue. So there's that, and it is, as you say, a kind of final testament to a skilled artist.
For sure. And did you notice the credits were different than how they are usually aligned, at the end of a film? So it said directed by Joel Souza, and then it says cinematography by Halyna Hutchins, and then cinematography by Bianca Klein, and then other people. And it's dedicated to her.
Yes.
Anyway, so I can understand feeling a little uneasy watching it, but I think it is worth it, as you say, as a tribute to her talent, and her memory. I'm gonna say like a 6.5.
Yeah, I'm a 6.8.
Yeah.
It's, it looks great. And there's it has a lot going on, but it doesn't quite fulfill, I think, its promise.
Yeah. So Rust is out in theaters and on VOD if you want to go check it out.